Picture walking into your very first day at work and being called out in front of the entire company by one of the most powerful CEOs in New York City. That's exactly what happened to Emily Brooks, a quiet girl from a small town in Kansas, when Charlotte Reed decided to make an example of her. But Charlotte had no idea what she was really dealing with. Before we dive in, make sure you subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell so you never miss a story. Drop a comment below and tell me what state you're watching from. I love hearing from you. The elevator climbed all the way up to the 57th floor. Not a single sound. Emily stood still, took a slow breath, smoothed the front of her blouse, and told herself she was ready. Ready to meet the woman everyone talked about in hushed voices. The doors slid open. Emily stepped into a lobby that felt more like a museum than an office. Marble floors. Glass walls that seemed to go on forever. People in tailored suits moved through the hallways like they owned the air around them. Emily held her old leather portfolio a little tighter. A woman with neat blonde hair appeared almost immediately. "You must be the new intern," she said with a polished smile. "I'm Jessica. Charlotte's assistant. She's already waiting." Emily's palms were damp. "Is she easy to work with?" Jessica's smile didn't move, but something behind her eyes did. "That's not really a word we use here." They walked down a long corridor lined with framed magazine covers and industry awards. Every single one featured the same face. Charlotte Reed. Sharp features, intense green eyes, the kind of presence that filled a room before she even entered it. "She built this whole company herself," Jessica said quietly as they walked. "Started with almost nothing. Now look at this place." Emily nodded and tried to slow her breathing. They stopped in front of two tall oak doors. Jessica knocked twice. A single word came from inside. "Come in." Just 2 words. But they were enough to make Emily's stomach drop. The office was enormous. Tall windows looked out over Central Park like a painting you could walk into. And behind a desk so wide it seemed almost theatrical, sat Charlotte Reed. In person, she was even more striking than in photos. Dark hair pulled back cleanly. A perfectly fitted charcoal suit. And those eyes, sharp and still, like she was already 3 steps ahead of everyone in the room. She didn't look up right away. Just kept typing. "So," she said, voice flat and unhurried. "You're the one they sent us from Kansas." She finally looked up. "Tell me something, Miss Brooks. What exactly makes you think you belong here?" Emily's throat tightened. "I graduated at the top of my class from." "I didn't ask about your grades." Charlotte stood up slowly and walked around the desk. "I asked what makes you think you belong in this company. In this city." The room felt like it had shrunk. Emily could hear her own heartbeat. "I work hard," Emily said. "And I don't give up." Charlotte let out a short, humorless laugh. "Work hard." She said it the way someone repeats a word they don't quite believe. "Do you know what that phrase actually means, Miss Brooks?" It means building something from the ground up while the whole world tells you it won't work. It means making the difficult calls, the uncomfortable ones, because the business requires it. She stopped just a few feet away. "So no. Your determination alone doesn't impress me." Emily's face felt hot. But she didn't look away. "I think," Emily said carefully, her voice quieter than she intended but steady, "that you're testing me. Trying to see if I'll walk out the door." She paused. "I won't." The silence that followed was heavy. Charlotte's eyes narrowed slightly. No one talked to her like that. Not in this office. Not anywhere. "We'll see," Charlotte said. She pressed a button on her desk. "Jessica, I need everyone in conference room A right now." Within minutes, the glass-walled conference room was full. Senior executives sat in their usual spots. Managers gathered near the back. Junior staff filed in with curious, slightly nervous energy. Emily stood near the front, very aware of how many eyes were on her. Charlotte took her place at the head of the table. Everyone, I'd like to introduce Emily Brooks, our newest intern, joining us all the way from Kansas. A few people smiled politely. A few others exchanged quiet looks. I've asked Emily to take on a small challenge on her very first day, Charlotte continued, sliding a thick folder across the table toward her. The Morrison account. Mr. Morrison is currently weighing whether to take his $50 million contract elsewhere unless we can solve his operations problem. Emily will present a solution by 5 o'clock this evening. The room shifted. Someone near the back coughed. An older man in a gray suit leaned forward. Charlotte, our senior team has been working on that account for months and haven't cracked it yet. Then perhaps a new perspective is what's needed, Charlotte replied. Her eyes didn't leave Emily. Emily looked down at the folder in her hands. Then back up at the room full of people watching her. Some looked sorry for her. Some just looked curious. Most looked like they were waiting for her to admit defeat. She thought about her mother, picking up extra shifts to pay the bills. Her father, losing everything he'd worked for. The scholarship that made this moment possible. I'll have something ready by 5, Emily said. Charlotte's expression didn't change. Good. I do hope you surprise me, Miss Brooks. Though I have a feeling you won't. The meeting ended and the room cleared out fast. Emily stood alone with the folder and the quiet hum of the air conditioning. Jessica came back in, hesitating near the doorway. Emily, I'm sorry. Even for her, this is a lot. Nobody expects you to. Is there a free workspace I can use? Emily asked. There's a small office 1 floor down, but I'll need a computer, a phone, and coffee. Emily picked up the folder and tucked it under her arm. A lot of coffee. Jessica stared at her for a moment. You're really going to do this? Emily was already heading for the door. I didn't get on a plane to Kansas just to turn around on day 1. As she reached the elevator, she glanced back through the glass. Charlotte was still standing at the head of the conference table, watching her. Those green eyes gave nothing away. Emily stepped into the elevator, pressed the button, and opened the Morrison file. 6 hours. That's what she had. What Emily didn't know, what she couldn't have known, was that Charlotte had already turned away from the window and was standing very still in the middle of her enormous office, not thinking about the quarterly numbers open on her screen. She was thinking about a girl from Kansas who looked her in the eye and didn't flinch. What is going on with me? Charlotte said under her breath. She sat back down at her desk. Tried to refocus. Couldn't quite manage it. Meanwhile, on the 45th floor, Emily had already spread the Morrison file across a small desk under flickering fluorescent lights, surrounded by cold coffee and the quiet kind of pressure that either breaks a person or sharpens them. Morrison Industries. A major shipping company. Warehouses stretched across the entire East Coast. The problem was one that had stumped an entire team of experienced analysts. Cut delivery times by 40%. Reduce costs by 20%. At the same time. On a fixed budget. Emily read every page twice. Then she started from the beginning again. 3 separate teams had looked at this problem before her. All 3 had walked away without an answer. Emily pressed her fingers against her temples and stared at the screen. Come on. What is everyone missing? She pulled up the shipping routes. The map looked like someone had drawn red lines in every direction without a plan. Each one of those lines was moving millions of dollars worth of product. Each one had a story behind it. Her phone buzzed on the desk. A text from her mom. How's the big city going, sweetheart? We're proud of you no matter what. Emily smiled, but it came with a little ache. If her mother only knew, she might be packing up her things before the end of the day. A knock at the door pulled her back. Come in. Jessica stepped in carrying a small tray. Sandwiches. Fresh coffee. The real kind, not the stale stuff from the break room. You didn't have to do that, Emily said. Yes, I did. Jessica set the tray down and pulled up a chair. What she did in that room today was not okay. Everyone's talking about it. Emily wrapped her hands around the warm cup. What are they saying? That she went too far. And people who have worked here a long time are saying that. Jessica shook her head. Charlotte is tough, everyone knows that. But she's usually clean about it. Professional. Today felt personal. Like she was specifically trying to get under your skin. Emily looked back at the screen. Maybe I remind her of someone she can't stand. Jessica was quiet for a moment. Or someone she can't stop thinking about, she said softly. Emily turned. What does that mean? Jessica shrugged, but there was something careful in her expression. I've been her assistant for 10 years. Interns are basically invisible to her. She doesn't track them. She doesn't think about them. But she's asked me about you 3 times since you sat down at that desk. Before Emily could respond, Jessica's phone lit up. It's her. Jessica picked up immediately. Yes, Miss Reed. Emily could hear the voice on the other end. Clear and controlled, even through a phone speaker. How is our intern getting along? Jessica glanced at Emily. She's working. Good. I want updates every hour. The call ended just like that. Emily sat still for a second. She's checking on me? Every hour. On the hour. Jessica looked genuinely puzzled. I don't know what to make of it. After Jessica left, Emily tried to pull her focus back to the problem. But some part of her mind kept drifting. Why would someone like Charlotte Reed spend any energy on one first-day intern? What was the point? She shook her head. Stop. 2 hours left. She opened the warehouse map again and stared at it. Something wasn't sitting right. The locations, the routes, the timing. There was a pattern somewhere. She could almost see it. And then, all at once, she did. Oh, she whispered. Then louder, to no one. Oh wow. Her hands moved fast. She pulled up traffic reports, weather data, construction timelines going back 2 years. She cross-referenced them with Morrison's delay logs. It was so straightforward. That's why no one had caught it. Morrison's warehouses had been set up around an older road network. For years, that system had worked perfectly. But a major highway construction project had quietly rerouted traffic patterns across the whole region. What used to be the fastest corridors were now the slowest. And Morrison's logistics system had no way of knowing that because it wasn't designed to adapt in real time. The warehouses weren't the problem. The routes weren't the problem. The system just couldn't see what had changed. Emily picked up the phone and dialed. Morrison Industries, how can I direct your call? This is Emily Brooks calling from Reed Industries. I'd like to speak with Mr. Morrison directly. Mr. Morrison doesn't generally take unscheduled. Please tell him I have a solution that could save his company $15 million a year. A pause. 1 moment. 2 minutes passed. Then a voice, low and no nonsense. Morrison here. You've got 30 seconds. Emily took 1 breath. Mr. Morrison, your delivery delays aren't a warehouse problem or a staffing problem. They're a routing problem caused by construction changes your current system hasn't accounted for. If you move to dynamic routing software that updates in real time based on traffic and road conditions, you can bring delivery times down by 45% and reduce fuel costs by 30%. Silence. Then, keep going. She walked him through it. Flexible warehouse assignments based on live demand. Real-time traffic integration. A software investment upfront that would pay for itself within the first few months. What's the cost to get started? He asked. Around $2 million to implement. But the annual savings land at 15. And what does Reed Industries get out of this? A client who's happy. And ideally, a 10-year contract extension. Morrison made a sound that might have been a laugh. I've had a whole team spinning their wheels on this for 6 months. You figured it out in a day. I had good material to work with. What did you say your name was? Emily Brooks. Well, Emily Brooks. I'll be calling Charlotte Reed myself tonight. The line clicked off. Emily set the phone down slowly. She sat with it for a moment. Just one quiet moment before everything moved again. She'd actually done it. Her hands weren't entirely steady as she put her slides together, but she kept going. At 4:45, Jessica appeared in the doorway. It's time. They walked back to conference room A, the same room. The same long table. But this time, almost every seat was filled. Word had gotten around the floor and people had come to see what would happen. Some were probably expecting a quiet failure. Others just looked curious. Charlotte sat at the head of the table. She had changed suits since the morning. Dark navy now. And her hair, which had been perfect earlier, looked like she'd been moving through a long and restless afternoon. Their eyes met the moment Emily walked in. Something passed through the air between them. Emily wasn't sure what to call it, but it had nothing to do with job titles or contract numbers. Miss Brooks, Charlotte said, her voice measured. Let's see what you have. Emily connected her laptop, pulled up the first slide, and began. She walked the room through the problem, the overlooked construction data, the routing shift, the real-time solution. She kept it clear. No extra words. Just the work. When she finished, the room was completely quiet. Charlotte leaned back slowly. It's an interesting idea, she said. But a theory on a slide doesn't close a deal. Emily's phone buzzed on the table. She looked down at the screen. She looked up. Mr. Morrison is calling. Charlotte's expression shifted, just slightly. Put it on speaker. Emily answered. Mr. Morrison, you're on with the team at Reed Industries. Mr. Morrison's voice came through clearly, filling every corner of that quiet room. Emily, I just spoke with my logistics team. We're moving forward with your solution starting Monday. It's exactly what we needed. A brief pause. And Charlotte, if you don't find a way to keep this one around, I'll find a way to bring her over to my side. The line went quiet. No one in the room made a sound. Charlotte looked at Emily from across the table. And for just a moment, something in those sharp green eyes shifted. It wasn't the usual cool distance. It was something closer to genuine surprise. And maybe, underneath that, something like respect. Well, Charlotte said, after a beat. It appears our intern has done what our senior team could not. A few people started clapping. Then more joined in. Voices picked up around the room, quiet and excited. Charlotte stood. We're done here. As the room emptied, Charlotte walked toward Emily. She stopped close. Closer than felt strictly professional. Good work today, Miss Brooks. Her voice was lower now. Almost careful. Thank you, Emily said. Charlotte held her gaze for a moment. Don't read too much into one good day. There are 100 more problems where that came from. Emily didn't look away. I'm not going anywhere. Something crossed Charlotte's face. Not quite a smile, but close. Be careful saying that, she said quietly. Then she turned and walked out, her heels steady and unhurried against the floor. Emily stood alone in the emptied conference room. She let out a long, slow breath. What just happened? And why did it feel like the actual test had nothing to do with the Morrison account at all? Back in her office, Charlotte closed the door behind her and stood still for a moment. Her heart was doing something it hadn't done in a long time. Moving faster than she'd told it to. This is a problem, she said to no one. She moved to her desk and sat down. Opened a report she'd already read twice. Couldn't take in a single line. Because she kept coming back to the same image. Emily Brooks, standing in front of a room full of people who expected her to fail, not flinching. Not once. Charlotte turned toward the window. The city was settling into evening, lights beginning to flicker on across the skyline. She pressed her fingers to her temple. This was exactly the kind of thing she didn't allow herself. Distractions. Complications. People who got under her skin. But she was already, quietly, thinking about tomorrow. Emily got to the office at 6 in the morning. The 57th floor was still. No movement, no voices, just the low hum of the building waking up. She liked this hour. It felt honest somehow. Like the day before anyone had a chance to perform for each other. After the Morrison result, she'd been given a proper desk on the 52nd floor. Not the executive level, but closer than she'd been yesterday. That felt like enough for now. She settled in and opened the quarterly reports. Just her, the screen, and the work. Then the elevator opened. Charlotte Reed stepped onto the floor. Black suit today. And her hair was down, which Emily hadn't seen before. It changed something about her. Made her look a little less like the cover of a business magazine and a little more like a person. Their eyes met across the empty floor. Charlotte paused for just a second. Then she walked over. "You're here early," she said. "I like the quiet," Emily replied. "So do I." Charlotte stopped beside the desk. Close enough that Emily noticed the faint flecks of gold in her green eyes, something you'd never see from across a conference table. "The Morrison solution," Charlotte said. "The routing idea, specifically. Where did that come from?" Emily looked at the screen for a moment before answering. "My dad drove trucks for years before he got sick. He used to talk about how the systems never adjusted fast enough. How drivers always knew a better way, but the software didn't listen." Something moved across Charlotte's face. A small shift, like a door opening just slightly. "Your father is sick?" "Cancer." Emily kept her voice even. "It's part of why this job matters so much." Charlotte didn't say anything right away. When she did, her voice was quieter than usual. "I'm sorry." Emily looked up. The sincerity in it was unexpected. "Thank you." "Is he doing okay?" "He doesn't know how to do anything else but fight." Emily smiled a little. "He's the one who taught me that walking away isn't really an option." Charlotte studied her face. "Is that why you stayed yesterday? After everything I put you through?" "Partly." Emily met her eyes. "Mostly because I don't respond well to being bullied." Charlotte's expression sharpened. "Excuse me? What happened in that conference room yesterday?" Emily kept her voice steady. "That was bullying. You knew it and I knew it." "That was a test," Charlotte said. Her jaw had gone tight. "This industry is hard. If you can't handle pressure then." "I can handle pressure." Emily stood, which brought them face to face. "What I won't accept is cruelty dressed up as a lesson." The silence between them was different now. Charged. "You have no idea," Charlotte said, her voice cold and clipped, "what it takes to run something like this." "Maybe not," Emily said. "But I know what it looks like when someone builds walls so high that no one can reach them. When someone hurts people first so they can't get hurt themselves." She paused. "That's not strength. That's just fear with a better wardrobe." Charlotte's face went still. Completely still. "How dare you say that to me?" "Because someone should have said it a long time ago." The elevator opened. Jessica stepped out, took one look at the two of them standing inches apart, and went completely rigid. "I'm so sorry, I didn't realize." "It's fine." Charlotte's voice was back to its usual control. "Miss Brooks and I were just wrapping up." She turned and walked toward her office without another word. Emily sat back down slowly. Her hands were not entirely steady. Jessica crossed the floor carefully, like she was approaching something that might startle. "What did I just walk into?" "I think I ended my career on day 2, Emily said. "What did you say to her?" Emily looked at her hands. "The truth." Jessica was quiet for a moment. Then she sat down across from her. In 10 years, I have never once seen anyone speak to Charlotte Reed like that. I know. I crossed a line. Maybe, Jessica said. Or maybe you're the first person in a very long time who told her something real. By noon, Emily had buried herself in work. Market analysis, client folders, anything that gave her hands and mind something to do besides replay the morning over and over. Jessica came by with lunch. Set a salad down without asking. You need to eat. Emily pushed it around with a fork. Jessica, if she fires me, my family loses the support I came here to provide. This wasn't just about me proving something. I know. I can't afford to have a backbone at the wrong moment. Jessica leaned forward. Emily, listen to me. I have spent 10 years watching people tiptoe around that woman. Saying yes, when they meant no. Laughing at things that weren't funny. Nobody tells Charlotte the truth anymore. They're all too careful. She paused. But this morning? The way she looked at you when you pushed back? Jessica shook her head slowly. I've never seen her look at anyone like that. The dress was hanging on the back of Emily's door when she got home that evening. Black silk. Simple and understated, with just enough detail to feel special. The kind of thing that didn't need to try hard because it already knew what it was. Emily touched the fabric carefully. I can't wear this. Yes, you can, and you will. Jessica crossed her arms. Emily, in 10 years of working for Charlotte Reed, I have never once seen her do something like this for another person. Not for a colleague. Not for a friend. She paused. Not even for the woman she dated. Emily went still. She dated a woman? Jessica nodded matter-of-factly. Charlotte doesn't date men. I thought you should probably know that. Emily's heart did something she wasn't entirely prepared for. Why are you telling me this? Because the two of you have been circling each other since the moment you walked off that elevator, Jessica said. And I think someone needs to just say it out loud. At exactly 7:30, the doorbell rang. Emily opened the door. Charlotte stood in the hallway in a charcoal suit, hair swept up, looking like she'd stepped out of somewhere that didn't entirely belong to the real world. Then her eyes landed on Emily in the dress. She stopped. You look, Charlotte started, then paused like she was choosing her words carefully. Beautiful. Emily felt warmth rise in her cheeks. Thank you. So do you. They stood there for just a moment, neither of them rushing it. Ready? Charlotte asked. Emily nodded. A black car waited at the curb. Emily slid into the back seat, smooth leather, quiet engine, the kind of calm that money buys. Charlotte settled in beside her and the city began to move past the windows. Nervous? Charlotte asked. A little. Don't be. It's just dinner. But Emily noticed that Charlotte's hands were folded tightly in her lap. So maybe it wasn't just dinner for either of them. The restaurant was everything Emily had imagined and then some. Crystal light overhead. White tablecloths. Staff who moved quietly and efficiently like the whole evening had been choreographed. The host greeted Charlotte by name and led them to a corner table where the city spread out below like something from a dream. Champagne? Charlotte asked, eyes on the menu. I don't usually drink. Neither do I. Charlotte closed the menu. But tonight feels like it deserves something. When the glasses arrived, Charlotte held hers up. To solving impossible problems, she said. Emily raised hers. To taking chances. The glasses touched softly. Emily took a sip and felt the bubbles rise. Charlotte looked at her across the table. Tell me about Kansas. The real version. Emily thought about it. Small town. Everyone knew everyone's business. My dad grew corn until his body stopped cooperating. My mom picked up whatever work she could find. Do you miss it? I miss how straightforward everything felt, Emily said. But I don't miss the ceiling. The sense that people had already decided who you were and what you were allowed to want. Charlotte was quiet for a moment. I know that feeling. Do you? I grew up in Queens. Charlotte's voice dropped slightly. My mother cleaned office buildings at night. My father left when I was 8. People looked at us and made a decision about what we were worth before we'd even opened our mouths. Emily studied her face. Is that why you push people so hard? Because you had to fight for every single thing you have? Charlotte looked down at her glass. Possibly. Their food arrived. They ate in a comfortable quiet that Emily hadn't expected. The kind of silence that doesn't need to be filled. Can I ask you something honest? Emily said after a while. You can try. Why did you really do what you did on my first day? The conference room, all of it. Charlotte set her fork down slowly. Because I wanted you to leave. Why? She looked out at the city for a moment. Because I could tell, from the second you walked off that elevator, that you were different. And different is something I don't know how to manage. Different how? Charlotte turned back. Her eyes were steady, but there was something unguarded in them that Emily hadn't seen before. Different in the way that makes me want things I've spent years telling myself I don't need. The air between them felt different now. Quieter. Heavier in a way that wasn't uncomfortable. What kind of things? Emily asked, her voice soft. Charlotte looked at her for a long moment. The kind that could unravel everything I've carefully put together. Emily leaned forward just slightly. Maybe some things are worth unraveling. Charlotte's breath shifted. She looked away first, which surprised Emily, because Charlotte Reed did not look away. We should go, Charlotte said quietly. She reached for the check, and Emily noticed that her hands weren't quite as steady as usual. In the car, they didn't speak much. The city moved past in streaks of light. When they pulled up to Emily's building, Charlotte said, I'll walk you up. You don't have to. I know. They rode the elevator in silence. At Emily's door, Emily turned around. Thank you. For dinner. For the dress. Keep it, Charlotte said simply. It was meant for you. They were standing close. That kept happening. Emily could see the gold in Charlotte's eyes again, that small detail that only showed up when you were near enough to really look. Charlotte, Emily said quietly. Yes. I'm not scared of you. Something in Charlotte's expression shifted. Like a wall developing a crack. You should be. Why? Charlotte exhaled slowly. Because I think I'm falling for you. And I have absolutely no idea what to do with that. The words landed between them like something fragile and real at the same time. Emily reached up and touched Charlotte's face, just gently. Charlotte's eyes closed. This doesn't make sense, Charlotte whispered. I know, Emily said. But it's real. Charlotte opened her eyes. Emily, if this becomes something, I need you to understand. My life is not simple. What I carry isn't simple. I'm not asking for simple, Emily said. I'm asking for honest. Charlotte looked at her for a long time. Then she stepped back. One small step. I need a little time, she said. Just to think. Emily nodded. I understand. Take it. Charlotte turned toward the elevator. Then, just before the doors opened, she looked back over her shoulder. You were right earlier, she said quietly. Some things are worth the risk. The doors closed. Emily stood in the empty hallway, back against her door, heart louder than it had any right to be. She went inside, sat down on her bed, and stared at the ceiling. What just happened? And why does it feel like something that can't be undone? Across the city, Charlotte sat in the back of the car, phone in hand, the screen staying dark. She wanted to call. Wanted to say, come back downstairs, I changed my mind, let's forget about being careful for one night. She didn't. Take me home, she told the driver. The car moved through the city. Charlotte watched the lights pass and said nothing else. But she was thinking about gold flecks in brown eyes. And how terrifying it was to want something real. But even as the city blurred past the car window, Charlotte already knew the truth. She'd known it for days, maybe since the moment Emily had looked her in the eye and refused to back down. The farm girl from Kansas had found a way in. And that terrified her more than anything she'd ever faced in a boardroom. Emily couldn't sleep. She lay on her back, staring at the ceiling, replaying dinner in her head. The way Charlotte's voice had gone quiet and unguarded. The way she'd leaned into Emily's touch like someone who had been holding themselves together for a very long time. At 3 a.m, her phone rang. She picked up before the second ring. Emily. Her mother's voice was thin and shaky in a way that made Emily sit straight up. Mom. What happened? It's your father, sweetheart. He's in the hospital. The doctors are saying the cancer has moved. You need to come home. Emily was on a flight to Kansas 6 hours later. Wichita General had that particular smell that hospitals all share. Clean in a way that doesn't actually feel clean. Emily found her mother in the waiting area looking like she'd aged a decade overnight. They held each other without speaking for a long moment. He's been asking for you, her mother said softly. The doctors are saying it could be weeks. Maybe less. Emily steadied herself. Can I see him? Her father looked smaller than she remembered. The bed, the tubes, the machines with their steady beeping, they all seemed too big around him. But when he saw her walk through the door, his eyes lit up the same way they always had. There's my girl, he said. His voice was quieter now, but still warm. Still him. Emily pulled a chair close and took his hand. Hi, Daddy. Tell me everything. How's the city? So she told him. About Reed Industries, about the Morrison account, about solving the problem that 3 teams hadn't been able to crack. She told him about Charlotte too. Not all of it, just enough. That she was complicated. That she was remarkable. That she'd surprised Emily in ways she hadn't expected. Her father listened with his eyes half closed and a small smile on his face. Sounds like this woman sees what you're made of, he said. Maybe. He squeezed her hand, slowly, deliberately. Emily. I need to say something to you and I need you to really hear it. She leaned in. I am so proud of you. Not because of the job or the company or any of that. Just because of who you are. His voice was thinning but his grip was steady. I know why you took that job. I know it was for the bills. For your mother and me. And I need you to know that you have already done more than enough. Emily's tears came quietly. Don't let obligation be the thing that shapes your life, he said. Don't spend your years doing what you feel you owe. Promise me. I promise, Dad. He smiled. Closed his eyes for a moment. Then opened them again. Now. Tell me more about this, Charlotte. Emily laughed through her tears. There's not much more to tell. Yes, there is, he said gently. You get a certain look when you say her name. Emily stayed in Kansas for 3 days. 3 days of hospital corridors and quiet conversations with doctors who spoke carefully and kindly and said the same difficult things in different ways. 3 days of watching her father rest, and wake, and rest again. On the second day, her phone buzzed. A message from Charlotte. Jessica told me about your father. How is he doing? Emily stared at the screen for a moment. She hadn't expected that. Not from Charlotte. Not like this. She typed back. Not well. Thank you for asking. The reply came quickly. Take whatever time you need. Your position will be waiting. Emily read it twice. Then another message. And Emily, if you need anything at all, please call me. I mean that. She showed the messages to her mother that evening without saying much. Her mother read them, looked up, and said simply, she cares about you. It's not straightforward. The things that matter rarely are. On the third day, her father slipped away. Peacefully, in the early morning, with Emily holding his hand and her mother on the other side of the bed. The machines went quiet. The room went still. Half the town came to the funeral. Her father had been the kind of man people remembered for small kindnesses stretched across decades. Emily stood at the graveside in the black dress Charlotte had sent her and felt the particular loneliness of grief. The kind that sits right beside you even when you're surrounded by people. After the service, her mother pressed an envelope into her hands. Emily's name was written on it in her father's handwriting. Inside was a letter and a check. $50,000. She read the letter twice before she could take it in fully. This is from the farm equipment. I sold it so it could go to you, not to bills or debts or obligations. To you. Use it to build something that's yours. Follow your heart, Emily, especially when it frightens you. That's usually how you know you're going the right way. Love, Dad. Emily looked up at her mother. He sold everything? He wanted you to have freedom, her mother said. That was the word he used. Freedom. That night, Emily sat on her old childhood bed in the quiet house. Outside the window, the Kansas sky was wide open and full of stars. The kind of sky you forget exists when you live in a city. She thought about her father's letter. About the word freedom. About what it actually meant to follow your heart when your heart was pointing towards something that felt equal parts right and terrifying. She wanted to hear Charlotte's voice. That surprised her a little, how much she wanted it. Instead, she called Jessica. Emily, how are you holding up? I'm okay. Getting through it. She paused. How are things there? Jessica hesitated just slightly. Busy. Charlotte has been, well. She's been working around the clock. Snapping at people more than usual, which is saying something. Emily felt something tighten in her chest. Is she all right? I think she misses you, Jessica said quietly. Not that she would ever say that. Emily looked out at the stars for a moment. Jessica, can I ask you something? About Charlotte's past. There was someone before, wasn't there? A pause. Her name was Victoria. They were together for about 2 years. She was driven, ambitious, and it turned out she was more interested in Charlotte's connections than in Charlotte herself. She left for someone with a bigger title. Jessica's voice was careful. It broke something in Charlotte. She's been different ever since. More guarded. More closed off. Until recently, Emily said softly. Until you, Jessica replied. After the call, Emily sat for a long time without moving. Then she picked up her phone and opened the travel app. She booked a flight back to New York for the next morning. Her father had told her to follow her heart, especially when it scared her. Well, it scared her. That was probably the point. But before she left for the airport, Emily made one more stop. The cemetery was quiet in the early morning. The headstone was simple and clean. Robert Brooks. Husband. Father. A good man. Emily knelt down in the grass beside it. Hi, Daddy. She was quiet for a moment. I'm going back tomorrow. Back to New York. And I'm going to tell her how I feel. She paused. It's scary. But you always said that was the point. The wind moved through the fields beyond the fence. Slow and steady, the way Kansas wind always did. I love you, Emily whispered. And I'm going to keep my promise. Her mother hugged her for a long time at the airport. Are you sure you're ready? I'm sure. Emily pulled back and held her hands. And I want you to come visit me soon. I mean it. Her mother smiled, the kind that carries a little sadness and a lot of pride. I'd like that very much. On the plane, Emily watched the clouds and let herself think clearly for the first time in days. She had spent 3 days sitting beside her father as he faded. 3 days thinking about what was real and what was just noise. 3 days learning, again, that time doesn't wait for you to feel ready. Charlotte was worth being honest about. Whatever came next, that much she knew. Emily landed at JFK just after 6 in the evening. She didn't go home. She took a cab straight to Reed Industries, rode up to the 57th floor, and walked down the familiar corridor. Most of the lights were off. The building had gone quiet for the night. But one office was still lit up at the far end of the hall. Of course it was. Emily knocked. "Come in." Charlotte looked up from her desk. And for just a moment, before she could arrange her expression into something composed, Emily saw it all. Surprise. Relief. Something that looked very much like joy. "You're back," Charlotte said. "I'm back." Charlotte stood slowly. "How are you?" "How was everything?" "Hard," Emily said honestly. "But I'm okay." They stood looking at each other across the room. The city glowed behind the windows. The office was still and quiet. "Charlotte," Emily said. "I need to say something." Charlotte's expression shifted slightly. "Careful." "Waiting." "My father spent his last days telling me not to waste my life on fear. He made me promise." Emily took one breath. "So I'm keeping that promise right now." She paused. "I love you. I know that's complicated. I know it turns everything upside down. But I couldn't come back to this building and pretend I don't feel what I feel." Charlotte stared at her. "Emily, you don't fully understand what you're—" "I do understand," Emily said gently. "I'm not confused. I'm not caught up in the moment. I love you. And I think you love me too." Something in Charlotte's face gave way. Just slightly. Like a wall that had been holding for a very long time and had finally decided it was tired. "Even if that were true," Charlotte said carefully, "there are real obstacles here. I'm your employer. There's a 13-year age gap. My world is not gentle. It will not be gentle with you." Emily took a step toward her. "Those are concerns. They're not reasons. They are reasons." Emily reached out and took Charlotte's hands. Charlotte looked down at them. Didn't pull away. "Then let's figure out the reasons together," Emily said. "One at a time." Charlotte's voice, when it came, was quieter than Emily had ever heard it. "I've been hurt badly before. Not professionally. Personally. The kind of hurt that changes how you see everything afterward." She looked up. "I don't know if I can open that door again." "I'm not asking you to throw the door open," Emily said. "I'm just asking you to see if it still works." Charlotte was still for a long moment. Then she pulled Emily gently closer, and when she spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. "I have been absolutely miserable since you left." "So have I." "I don't know how to be soft with someone," Charlotte admitted. "I don't know how to let someone in without waiting for it to go wrong." Emily lifted her hand and rested it against Charlotte's face, the same way she had in the hallway outside her apartment. Charlotte's eyes closed. "We'll work it out as we go," Emily said. "That is a terrible plan," Charlotte murmured. "I know." A pause. Then, quietly, something changed in the room. Charlotte opened her eyes. And she smiled. A real one. Full and unguarded, the kind Emily hadn't seen before and suspected most people never had. "Your father sounds like he was an extraordinary person," Charlotte said softly. "He was. He would have liked you." "How could you possibly know that?" Emily smiled. "Because he taught me how to see past the surface of people. Even the ones doing their best to keep you out." Charlotte's composure didn't just bend this time. It let go entirely. Her eyes filled, and she didn't try to stop it. "I love you too," she whispered. "I have been trying very hard not to, and I'm not very good at it." Emily laughed quietly. Charlotte laughed too. And something in the room felt lighter than it had in a long time. But then Charlotte looked toward the glass walls. The corridor beyond. The cameras on the ceiling. Not here, she said, straightening slightly. This building has eyes in every corner. Emily nodded. Then where? Charlotte picked up her jacket and bag. My apartment. We need space and walls that aren't made of glass. They rode the elevator down together. In the parking garage, Charlotte led her to a black Porsche. Emily raised an eyebrow. You drive yourself? When I need to feel like I'm actually in charge of something, Charlotte said, starting the engine. Emily smiled. That might be the most honest thing you've ever said to me. Charlotte glanced over at her. Then back at the road. But her mouth curved. The building Charlotte lived in looked exactly like you'd expect. Glass and steel and height. Penthouse floor. A view that made the whole city feel like it had been arranged specifically for this window. Emily stepped inside and stopped. The apartment was enormous. Beautiful in a precise, deliberate way. Art on the walls. Everything in its place. The kind of space that a magazine would love. It's incredible, Emily said. It's empty, Charlotte said quietly, setting her keys down. Emily turned to look at her. What do you mean? Charlotte walked to the window and stood looking out at the lights below. I've owned this place for 5 years. I spent a long time and a lot of money making it look like a home. She paused. It never quite got there. Emily came to stand beside her. Why not? Because a home needs someone in it who actually matters to you. Charlotte said it plainly, like a fact she'd made peace with. I haven't had that. They stood side by side at the window for a moment. Charlotte, Emily said softly. What is it you're most afraid of? Actually. Charlotte was quiet long enough that Emily thought she might not answer. Everything, she finally said. Losing my footing. Getting hurt again. Being the reason someone else gets hurt. She glanced at Emily. You, specifically. Emily turned to face her fully. What if we don't try to figure out the whole thing at once? What if we just start with right now and see where it goes? Charlotte looked at her. You make it sound straightforward. Maybe it is, Emily said. Charlotte shook her head with a short, quiet laugh. Emily, my last relationship ended with the other person selling private details about me to tabloids. The headline was something like, "The Ice Queen's Secret Life." It ran everywhere. It was humiliating in a way I still haven't entirely gotten over. Emily's expression went still. I'm not her. I know that. Then trust what you know. Charlotte looked at her. It's not that simple. The media doesn't care who you actually are. They'll come after you just for being connected to me. They'll pick apart everything. Your background, your family, where you came from. They'll make a story out of all of it. Emily stepped closer. Let them. Charlotte blinked. You don't mean that. Charlotte. Emily's voice was steady. I've already lost my father. I've watched my family lose almost everything and hold themselves together anyway. I have been underestimated and dismissed more times than I can count. She reached for Charlotte's hands again. You seem to think I'm fragile because I grew up in a small town. I'm really not. Charlotte looked down at their joined hands. For a moment she didn't speak. If we do this, she said quietly, it changes things permanently. The board. The press. There's no quiet version of this. Then we handle the noise together. Charlotte looked up. Together. Together. Something moved across Charlotte's face. The fear was still there, that hadn't gone anywhere. But it was sharing space now with something that looked like it hadn't been there in a long time. Something that looked like hope. I should tell you up front, Charlotte said. I am not easy. I work too much. I travel constantly. I don't always say the right thing and I sometimes say the wrong thing with great confidence. Emily smiled. Good thing I don't mind a challenge. Charlotte's mouth curved. Just slightly. You're impossible. I learned from someone. Charlotte actually laughed. A real one, surprised out of her. That is outrageously arrogant. I know. They stood looking at each other. The city glittered behind the glass. The room was very quiet. Emily, Charlotte said softly. Yes. I want to kiss you. But I need you to know that if I do. What? I don't think I'll want to stop. Emily closed the small distance between them. Then don't. Charlotte's composure, the last thin layer of it, finally let go. She pulled Emily close and kissed her like someone who had been holding their breath for a very long time and had finally decided to breathe. Emily's hands found Charlotte's shoulders. Charlotte's fingers moved into her hair. When they finally pulled apart, both of them were quiet for a moment, foreheads resting together, just breathing. Wow, Emily whispered. Charlotte laughed softly against her cheek. Yes. That. A pause. Then Charlotte pulled back just enough to look at her properly. We're really doing this. Are you having second thoughts? Charlotte considered. Terrifying thoughts, she said carefully. Not second thoughts. Emily smiled. Good. Then Charlotte's phone buzzed. She glanced down. Her expression shifted. What is it? Emily asked. Text from Jessica. Charlotte's voice had gone careful. There are photographers outside the building. Emily's stomach dropped. Already? Charlotte moved to her laptop and pulled up a news site. And there it was. Grainy, taken from across the street, but clear enough. The two of them leaving Reed Industries together. The headline read something about the city's most guarded CEO and a mystery companion. Emily stared at the screen. That was fast. Charlotte was already on her feet, pacing. By morning they'll have your name. Your history. Everything. She stopped. Emily, I told you. This is what my world looks like. Emily's phone rang before she could respond. She looked at the screen. Her mother. She picked up. Hey, Mom. Emily. Her mother's voice was tight. There are people outside the house. Reporters. They're asking about you and someone named Charlotte Reed. Emily closed her eyes for just a second. Mom, I'm so sorry. Please don't talk to them. Just go inside and lock the door. I'll explain everything soon. Are you in some kind of trouble, sweetheart? No. I promise. I'll call you back soon. She hung up. Charlotte was watching her, and the expression on her face was something Emily hadn't seen there before. Guilt. Pure and simple. They found your mother, Charlotte said. It wasn't a question. It's okay. It's not okay. This is exactly what I was afraid of. I should have been more careful. I should have thought about what this could mean for your family before. Charlotte. Emily walked over to her. Look at me. Charlotte did. This is not your fault. And I am not leaving. You don't know what you're agreeing to. They will dig into everything. Your father's illness. Your family's finances. The scholarship. They will take every true thing and find a way to make it ugly. Emily felt something firm settle in her chest. Then they'll find a pretty boring story. A girl from Kansas who worked hard and fell in love. They can do whatever they want with that. Charlotte's voice cracked slightly. Why are you not more afraid of this? Because I've already been through the thing that actually scared me, Emily said quietly. I sat with my father while he died. After that, a bad headline doesn't feel like much. Charlotte's eyes filled. She blinked, but didn't look away. I don't deserve you, she said. That's not your call to make, Emily said gently. It's mine. Charlotte kissed her again, slower this time. Softer. The kind of kiss that isn't asking for anything, just saying something. I love you, Charlotte whispered. I love you too. Charlotte's phone rang. She pulled back and looked at the screen. My publicist, she said. Charlotte answered on the second ring. Marcus, I've seen it. All of it. Emily could hear the voice on the other end moving fast, one suggestion rolling into the next. No, Charlotte said clearly. I'm not issuing a denial. And I'm not releasing a statement calling her just an employee, because that's not what she is. A pause while Marcus spoke again. Set up a meeting for tomorrow morning. We're going to handle this the right way. She ended the call and looked at Emily. He wants you to deny it, Emily said. It wasn't quite a question. He wants me to protect the company's image. Charlotte set the phone down. And I understand why. That's his job. She crossed the room slowly. But it's not what I want to do. What do you want to do? Charlotte stopped in front of her. And for the first time since Emily had known her, she looked completely unguarded. No performance, no armor. I want to tell the truth, Charlotte said quietly. That I am in love with someone who walked into my building and quietly changed everything. She paused. That I have no interest in pretending otherwise. Emily felt warmth move through her chest like something settling into place. But Emily, once we say it publicly, it's permanent. The world will have an opinion about us forever. Are you sure you're ready for that? Emily thought about her father's letter. About the word freedom. About the stars over Kansas. I'm sure, she said. Charlotte nodded slowly. Then tomorrow we tell the truth. Emily leaned in and kissed her. Charlotte held her close. Together, Emily sat against her shoulder. Together. They stood at the window for a long time, arms around each other, looking out at the city. Emily thought about everything that had happened in just a few weeks. She'd arrived in New York with a worn leather portfolio and a scholarship and no real idea what she was walking into. Now she was here. In love. About to face whatever came next. Charlotte's arms tightened around her. And Emily knew, with the same quiet certainty she'd felt standing in her father's hospital room, that she was exactly where she was supposed to be. Emily woke to sunlight filling the room like something generous and unhurried. For a few seconds, she just lay still. Charlotte was asleep beside her, face relaxed in a way Emily had never seen during waking hours. The sharp, controlled public version of her was completely gone. She just looked like a person. A tired, beautiful person who had been carrying a great deal for a very long time. Emily watched her for a moment. Then her phone buzzed. She picked it up carefully so as not to wake Charlotte. 17 missed calls. 40-something messages. Reporters, old college contacts, people she hadn't spoken to in years. All of them circling the same story. One message stopped her. Her mother. There are more people outside the house this morning. They're offering to pay for information. I haven't said a word. But Emily, I'm scared. Charlotte stirred. Opened her eyes. Took one look at Emily's face and sat up. What's happened? Emily showed her the phone. Charlotte took it, scrolled through, handed it back. Then she reached for her own phone. Her expression darkened steadily as she read. The board has called an emergency meeting, she said. 1 hour. They want to address what they're calling recent developments affecting the company's standing. Emily's stomach tightened. They want to push you out. They want to try. Charlotte's voice was flat and steady. They can't remove me without cause. I own 45% of this company. She paused. But they will make things very uncomfortable unless we move first. What does moving first look like? Charlotte looked at her. It means I'm promoting you to Director of Client Relations, effective today. Executive level. It removes the direct reporting structure between us and takes away their cleanest argument. Emily shook her head. Charlotte, if you promote me right now it looks exactly like what they'll say it is. Favoritism. It'll make everything worse. You earned this the day you solved the Morrison account. I'm simply making it official before the board tries to use it against us. Emily looked at her for a long moment. And you're sure that's the reason? I'm sure that it's one of them, Charlotte said honestly. Before Emily could respond, her phone rang again. Her mother. She answered. Mom. Sweetheart, I'm at the neighbor's house. I couldn't get to my car this morning. There are too many of them out front. Her voice was tight, trying to hold steady. Emily closed her eyes. Mom, I am so sorry. This is because of me. No, her mother said firmly. This is because of them. Now I only have one question. Are you happy? With this woman? Emily looked at Charlotte, who was watching her quietly from across the room. Yes, Emily said. Really happy. Then that's the answer that matters to me. A pause. Just be careful, okay? People are saying things about her. Hard things. They don't know her, Emily said. Not the real version. I trust you, her mother said. I just needed to hear your voice. After she hung up, Charlotte was already on her phone. I'm sending a security team to your mother's house. They'll take her somewhere comfortable, a hotel, meals covered, whatever she needs. This is not up for discussion. Charlotte. My world created this problem, Charlotte said quietly. My world will take care of it. They arrived at Reed Industries through the parking garage to avoid the crowd gathered at the front entrance. The building felt different that morning. Tighter somehow. People moved with the particular energy of an office bracing for impact. Jessica met them at the elevator, tablet already in hand. The board meeting is in 50 minutes, she said. And there's something you need to see first. She handed Charlotte the tablet. The headline read something about a small-town girl and a billionaire CEO. A love story or a calculated climb, depending on who was writing it. The article had Emily's full name, her father's illness, her family's financial situation, all of it laid out in a way designed to lead the reader to the ugliest possible conclusion. Emily read it over Charlotte's shoulder. This is designed to hurt you, Charlotte said tightly. By going through me. There's more, Jessica said carefully. Victoria gave an interview. It posted an hour ago. Charlotte went very still. What did she say? Jessica hesitated. That you have a pattern of this. Using your position to pull people in. That it's happened before. The room was quiet. Emily felt anger move through her, clean and clear. That is not true. I know, Jessica said. But it's already out there. Charlotte set the tablet down and walked to the window. Below, the street was still busy with cameras and reporters clustered near the entrance. She stood with her back to the room, completely still. Maybe, she said quietly, we should consider stepping back from this. Before it gets worse. Emily's heart stopped. She crossed the room. What are you saying? Charlotte turned around. Her face was composed, but her eyes were tired. Look at what's happening, Emily. Your mother is trapped in her own home. They're writing things about you that aren't true and can't be unwritten. My board is calling emergency meetings. Victoria is giving interviews. She exhaled slowly. I am trying to protect you. By ending things. By being honest about the cost. Emily stepped closer. Then let me be honest too. I didn't come back from Kansas to be protected from my own choices. I'm here because I chose to be here. Because you're worth being here for. She held Charlotte's gaze. You don't get to take that decision away from me because it's gotten complicated. Emily crossed the room and stood directly in front of her. I don't need to be protected from this, she said. I need you to stand with me through it. There's a difference. Emily. My whole life, people have looked at me and decided what I was capable of. They saw where I came from and made up their minds before I ever opened my mouth. She took Charlotte's hands in both of hers. And every single time, I proved them wrong. Not by being loud about it. Just by staying. Charlotte looked at her without speaking. I didn't fall in love with you because of this office or this city or any of what you've built, Emily continued. I fell in love with you because underneath everything you used to keep people out, you are honest and brave and genuinely kind. Even when you're trying very hard not to be. Charlotte's eyes filled slowly. She didn't blink it away this time. What if I can't keep you safe from all of this? She said quietly. What if my world just keeps coming for you and I can't stop it? Then we deal with it as it comes, Emily said. Together. But Charlotte, if you walk away right now to protect me, you should know that's not what it will feel like from where I'm standing. It will feel like being left. The room was very quiet. Charlotte stared at her for a long moment. You're right, she said finally. I know. Charlotte laughed softly through her tears. You are the most stubborn person I have ever met. I wonder where I picked that up. A knock at the door? Jessica opened it a crack. Ms. Reed. The board is assembled. Charlotte straightened. Took a breath. Then looked at Emily with an expression that was clear and decided. I want you in that room with me, she said. As your employee? As my partner. In every sense of the word. Emily held her gaze. Then let's go. The boardroom had the particular atmosphere of a room full of people who have decided something before the meeting has started. 12 members around a long mahogany table. Faces composed into professional concern. Robert Sterling, the chairman, silver-haired and measured, spoke first. Charlotte. You know why we're here. Tell me anyway, Charlotte said, taking her seat. Your relationship with this young woman is creating a public distraction that is affecting how investors and clients perceive this company. Emily Brooks, Charlotte said evenly, is no longer an intern. As of this morning, she is Director of Client Relations. Voices overlapped around the table. Sterling held up a hand to quiet the room. Charlotte, you cannot seriously expect us to accept that this promotion is based purely on merit given the circumstances. Emily stepped forward. The room shifted its attention to her. Several board members looked genuinely caught off guard, as though they'd expected her to be decorative rather than vocal. 3 weeks ago, Emily said calmly, I solved the Morrison account. A problem your senior analysts had been circling for 6 months. I solved it on my first day, presented it that evening, and received a call from Mr. Morrison himself confirming he would be extending his contract. She looked around the table slowly. You are welcome to question my background. You are welcome to question my age or where I come from. But my results are not up for debate. Sterling leaned forward. Miss Brooks, your work has been noted. But the nature of your relationship with our CEO creates an optics problem that we cannot simply set aside. Optics, Charlotte said, standing. Her voice was quiet in the way that meant it was at its most serious. You mean the fact that 2 women have fallen in love? That's the optics problem. We mean a CEO in a relationship with someone she directly oversees. Which is why Emily has been moved to executive level. Charlotte looked around the table. Let me say something plainly so there is no confusion about where I stand. Emily Brooks is the most capable person I have brought into this company in years. She is also the woman I love. Those 2 things are both true, and I will not be apologizing for either one. The room erupted. Several voices at once. Charlotte placed one hand flat on the table. The room went quiet. I built this company, she said. Not with help. Not with a safety net. From nothing, while being told at every stage that I wouldn't make it. I have made each one of you a great deal of money. And now you want to sit across from me and tell me that finding something real, something worth having, is a liability. She paused. I'll make it simple. Emily stays. We stay. If that doesn't work for you, the door is right behind you and your shares will find a buyer. She turned to Emily. Let's go. We have work to do. As they walked toward the door, Sterling called out, Charlotte, this conversation is not finished. Charlotte looked back over her shoulder. Yes, it is, Robert. In the elevator, Emily looked at her with something between amazement and disbelief. You just put everything on the line. Charlotte smiled. A real one. Not everything. Just money and power. She reached for Emily's hand. Those things I can rebuild. You I cannot replace. Emily kissed her. The elevator doors opened on the 57th floor. Jessica was standing there with the expression of someone who had been waiting to deliver good news and could barely contain it. The Morrison account, she said, slightly breathless, just confirmed a 10-year renewal. She looked down at her tablet. And 3 other major clients have called this morning. Not to complain. To say they respect what they saw. Charlotte and Emily looked at each other. Apparently, Jessica continued, barely hiding her smile, people respond well to honesty. Who knew? 6 months later, Emily stood at the window of Charlotte's office, which looked different now. Warmer somehow. A few photos on the shelf. A plant Emily had insisted on. Small things that added up to something. Her mother had moved to New York and discovered, to everyone's surprise including her own, that she loved the city completely. The media storm had passed, the way storms do when there's nothing left to sensationalize. What remained was something quieter and more durable. A story people seemed to genuinely like, about 2 women who had chosen honesty over convenience. Charlotte came up behind her and wrapped her arms around her waist. Any regrets? She asked softly. Emily leaned back into her. Just one. Which is? Emily turned around in her arms. That we wasted so much time at the beginning pretending we weren't already falling. Charlotte smiled. We have plenty of time ahead to make up for it. Is that a promise? Charlotte reached into her desk drawer and held up a small velvet box. Emily's breath stopped entirely. Charlotte lowered herself to one knee, looking up with eyes that were clear and steady and completely unguarded. Emily Brooks, she said. You walked into my building and made me remember what it felt like to be brave. You told me the truth when everyone else was too careful to. You made me better, not by asking me to change, but just by showing me what it looked like when someone chose to stay. She paused. Will you marry me? Emily's hands were over her mouth. Tears were already falling. Yes, she managed. Yes. Absolutely yes. Charlotte slid the ring onto her finger and stood up, and Emily kissed her before she'd fully gotten there. Outside the tall windows, the city moved the way it always did. Bright and fast and full of itself. But inside that office, everything was still. The good kind of still. The kind that only comes when something is finally, fully right. Emily thought about her father's letter. About the word freedom. About following your heart especially when it frightens you. She had been frightened. She had followed it anyway. And standing there in Charlotte's arms, looking out at the city that had changed everything, Emily understood what her father had been trying to tell her all along. Courage wasn't the absence of fear. It was choosing to move forward while the fear was still there. She had done that. And it had brought her here. Charlotte pulled her close and pressed a kiss to her hair. Thank you for not giving up on us, she said quietly. Thank you, Emily replied, for finally letting me in. They stood together at the window as the city stretched out below them, 2 people who had found each other in the most unexpected way, in the most unlikely place, and had been brave enough to hold on. And they both knew, without needing to say it, that this was only the beginning.